With KD and Kyrie's departure on the cusp, Nets fans thought, well, there goes the historic performances. Only for that to be very short-lived as Cam Thomas scored 40 3 games in a row for the first time in Nets history, also breaking the record for the most points in a 3-game span. Then I thought, surely that's the last of it. Though, about a week later, Mikal Bridges not only becomes the second player in Nets history to have 45, 5 and 5, plus multiple steals and blocks, but also the first player in NBA history to go 45 and 5, get multiple blocks and steals, and score at the efficiency he did from the field and the free throw line. Mikal Bridges was always recognised by the Suns fanbase to hold serious potential, but it's only recently when Devin Booker went down, and now the trade to Brooklyn, where he's been given more command and responsibility. This, in theory, could unearth and unlock a side to Mikal Bridges that the NBA is yet to witness. Averaging 23 points, 4 rebounds, 4 dimes, and 1.5 steals on 50, 41, and 91, plus an offensive rebound a game. In the last 16 games, when this role shift happened, the signs are there. Let's take a deep dive into the 45-point performance against Miami and pay attention to what Nets fans will be treated to for some time. A lot of the stuff I mentioned, you'll notice, overlaps into some other clips as well. First off, I want to point out the blatantly obvious. Mikal Bridges at 6'6" has a wingspan of 7'1". Paired alongside a lanky frame, Bridges displayed the perks against Miami to having this build. I noticed the Mikal with such long arms, he often meets the ball first, especially flying in for rebounds. Whilst he got a bit of luck with the bounce on this one, he beats center Orlando Robinson to it, and has the awareness to slingshot the ball back to the perimeter. This one has quite a few similarities to it in the way in which he plucked it with one hand and flung it back out, possessing the understanding that throwing it into space means a teammate can run onto it. The loopy pass further on was perfectly precise to Curry, however he couldn't back up Mikal's hard work. On this occasion, Mikal gets insanely high to gather the ball, and I think Caleb Martin gave in to fate on this one because he didn't even try going up. Basically gets out of the way and Bridges with an uncontested dunk. And for a team who is prone to conceding offensive rebounds, on the defensive glass is also pretty handy, and he shields the ball well from Jimmy Butler, first to it once again. His Mr. Fantastic arms aren't necessarily only to get a rebound first. Ben assumes the role of quarterback and sends one out to Mikal. He's actually backtracking and moving away from the falling basketball, yet he still meets Strus, who's much closer to the drop of the ball. Second bite of the cherry, he's first to it, and he gets it to go on the buzzer just about. I've also noticed that Mikal sort of has the Giannis attribute of possessing incredibly long strides, which makes it difficult for opponents to keep the driver in front. Via off-ball screens, Gabe Vincent was never in prime position to guard Bridges on the drive, and even when he seemingly has him covered, Mikal beats him to the spot and gets it to go. We can see on this possession, Bam's already isolated on Spencer Dinwiddie, meaning the internal presence for Miami isn't as imposing. Mikal wraps around the clack screen, and you can see he picks up his dribble here at the elbow. Butler's trailing, so he's basically already ruled out the play, and those long strides enable an uncontested layup as opposed to a short pull-up pop. Another thing I was pleasantly surprised about was his ability to create off the dribble, and as a byproduct of that, his ability to consistently make a pull-up jumper in the mid-range. Butler remained disciplined for the most part on Bridges in this game, but excellent use of the body to create space after getting to his preferred spot, and it ends up being a high percentage look. There was a very consistent Nets play, especially early on, where Mikal starts in the far corner and he receives a handoff. Heat loved a good switch in this game, especially with their zone defense, but Mikal's more than willing to shoot over Strus. Same thing again over Robinson. Same result. Once he's got the ball on a string and he can't miss in the last, he was very happy to play a little bit of ISO. And yet again, that extra step helps him to get to his spot and have the possession on his terms. Even though this one doesn't come off, I like his aggressiveness going to the cup, especially given he had a knack of drawing fouls and wreaking havoc on the interior. We talked about the long strides thing before. Picks up his dribble at the 3-point line, and flings the ball at the edge of the restricted area. And that also plays into the Euro step, which becomes far more effective if he tries it. I love the composure and the selflessness on the dump off to Clax. Here, the Heat once again have their zone set up. Strus is responsible for the space around Mikal, but excellent move to bypass Strus, who was sent to the car park, and yet again I'm loving the composure and cleanliness of his play. To wait for an opening in the defense to get an easy layup. Then here, Mikal has the awareness to identify Vincent being the assignment, and puts the ball on the floor in the post to expose vulnerability. Clax smartly clears out, leaving Bam accountable, and ensuring yet again an uncontested layup, as Mikal's patience pays dividends. This one was really impressive because the offense was somewhat predictable. One-man offense, Mikal brings it up, it doesn't leave his hands. Couple crossovers has Butler on skates, and he's late to the party as Mikal with arms extended draws the foul, and somewhat parallel to the floor when pulling the trigger, somehow gets it to go. I love his control in this situation. He never seemed flustered, and to do this on Jimmy Butler is a very good sign from a player whose shot creation we've only seen glimpses of. We talk about his passing ability, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. We know the twin chemistry from Phoenix exists, and it's a measured pass from Bridges that allows Cam Johnson to tee off from 3. Ben pulls up on the roll on this play, and Johnson wheels out to the 3-point line. Mikal finds him yet again perfectly, without Johnson needing to readjust because the pass is well directed. Early in the game, Mikal was demanding attention, and credit to Ben for diving to the rim on the roll. The pass, well executed, because sometimes you can get the skimmers to go horribly wrong, but this pass was right in Ben's wheelhouse. And this one's well executed as well. We know Clax is pretty good at readjusting on the fly, no matter where the pass is directed. All Mikal has to do is get it up there. Easier said than done, because Bam's right in his grill on the switch, but Mikal does exactly what the doctor ordered. And we have brushed over Mikal's selfless team play a bit throughout this video, but I want to highlight one play which highlights the benefits of this part of the game. Mikal's brought 3 defenders into the paint, identifies the open man on the weak side, and now Jimmy Butler having to peel across, Robinson is left to watch 2. He goes to the nearest. Vincent has to rotate across, but because he's late to it, that disadvantages Miami, as now Martin, who would initially take Bridges, has to close out the driver. And the catalyst for sending Miami's defense into disarray is the man who adds another 3 points to his tally. It all stemmed from Mikal simply being unselfish and delivering the right pass. Now we talk about the simple stuff that really doesn't come as a surprise when watching Mikal Bridges. As a runner-up for the Defensive Player of the Year award, shooting around 40% from 3, it's to be expected both 3-pointers and defense are non-negotiables in his game. We talked about Mikal's wingspan being cracked before. That doesn't just go for rebounds or getting the ball high on the catch. It also goes for shot contesting. And even if he's trailing, let's say in transition like this, his wingspan compensates. Fair play to Dodo for holding Martin up. Here he turns the ball over, but perfect coverage of space, keeping in front of Jimmy Butler, and also blocking the runway to the rim, where Jimmy definitely has his mind set on getting to, given his physicality and ability to draw a foul. The Mr. Fantastic arms means he can avoid the contact and still remain vertical and meet him at the summit. Even though he doesn't save it, credit to the heads-up play. Fair play to Ben for being physical for one of the few times this season, causing the defense to converge into the paint, leaving Mikal open in the corner. I'll give Spence plenty of credit for holding his own here in the post on Jimmy and forcing the fumble. But Mikal brought about an extra element of pressure as he closed down, created some panic, but he also gave some teasing room. Jimmy thinks he's permitted to a bailout by passing it to Strus, but it's actually not on, because we know of Mikal's wingspan, and a loopy pass like that is suicide. Here, you can see Martin and Butler have switched, but nice use of the screen by Mikal to go to the left of Clax, capitalizing on an oblivious and flat-footed Martin who thinks that he's going the other way. I don't know what Strus was thinking here, maybe that Mikal was following Bam into the paint, but Mikal is very quick off his feet, changes direction, and always remained proactive. Eyes on the ball at all times, and whilst we didn't get it on the first take, Mikal manufacturing a fast break opportunity meant the defense wasn't established enough to cover the second chance opportunity. This one's just smart. Recognizes his players down, darts to the corner. Inexplicably, no one picks him up, and he doesn't disappoint. Here, you can see with 5 seconds on the shot clock, Spence is doubled, who feeds Royce. Mikal yet again senses an opportunity with Martin not displaying any attempt to be physical and stop the cut back door. And all Royce needs to do is honour a well-timed run by Mikal, who scores the dunk in the nick of time. I think if there's one thing I could say which seems to be the common denominator in a lot of these plays, Mikal is a very smart, aware, and composed basketball player who isn't fazed by a need to readjust spontaneously when the situation demands it. Overall, you're seeing Mikal Bridges in this game do a bit of everything. Though, to be honest, I didn't actually think he was capable of this much, especially assuming responsibility in the late game. He scored 15 in about 4 minutes of game time and took responsibility of closing the game out. This, of course, is rectifying an issue we had in previous games, the most glaring example being that Nets loss to Philly, where we only scored 2 points in the last 7 minutes of game time. If he can do stuff like this more consistently, he will be a force, especially if he's given the opportunity to operate with high usage, so we can put that talent on display. Given there being no clear standout on this Nets team, that opportunity will present itself if it hasn't already. Outside of the on-court product, it's already been noted that Mikal has been a vocal presence in the locker room, and that leadership was displayed against Miami, leading from the front. He's already immersed himself amongst the community and has quickly transitioned into calling Brooklyn home, with that Brooklyn Bridges nickname almost serving as an indicator that he's passed the initiation test amongst the Net fanbase. It's very clear the reason why Sean Marks in the front office did not bite on a ludicrous offering of picks, because seriously, this guy in 3 games has already seemed like he will flourish into a star at the Brooklyn Nets, on top of being a very big fan favorite already. I understand why Phoenix and their fanbase both felt devastated to lose him and are now rooting for his success in a Nets uniform. Boy, am I excited to see what this guy will achieve. Share your thoughts. We're closing in on 1K subs, and if you want to see an authentic reaction to Mikal Bridges grow as a basketball player, I'm continuing to do live Nets game watch-alongs. So, subscribe if that appeals to you, but for now, so long. Hope you enjoyed. Bye for now.